Welcome. My name is Jonathan Spazzi. I'm a Teagasc Forestry Development Officer, and for the last 20 years, my work has focused on integrating conservation management with production management with particular interest for native woodlands. With this presentation, I would try to answer the question, can we grow quality hardwoods within native woodlands in Ireland? And if so, can we square this within a conservation programme? As we might know, Irish native woodlands almost came to the verge of disappearance in the beginning of the 1900s when 1, maybe 2% of all forests remained. However, since then and in recent decades, we have seen really a resurgence of native woodlands, both in terms of public interest and importantly in terms of their expansion, also aided by the Department of Agriculture Forestry schemes, in particular the Native Woodland Scheme. In the pictures here, 2 new native woodland sites planted in southwest Kerry to the left and East Clare to the right, both showing the potential for growth of native species when planted on suitable sites. The primary focus of the Native Woodland Scheme is enhancement of biodiversity and also the provision of a wide range of other ecosystem services like water protection, carbon sequestration, recreation. But it's also envisaged that timber production could be achieved from native woodlands in years ahead. But is this a realistic expectation? Some may be forgiven for doubting that perhaps we don't have any quality timber production potential in Ireland, looking at the poor average timber form of our current mature native trees. However, a quick check of our historical records would show that vast quantities of quality hardwoods were indeed produced from Ireland and exported mostly during the centuries to Britain. And the resulting poor timber form of our mature trees is the consequence of a long period of negative selection, lack of management, and renewal. In fact, if we look for it, it's still possible to find a glimpse of past quality and hopefully of future quality in our mature woodlands, such as this quality Class A oak tree found in Kildare Forest in Raheen, currently managed by Quilta through Continuous Cover Forestry. We can also take a look at our broadleaf plantations planted, say, 20 years ago on suitable sites and where appropriate management was applied, and what we find are good level of growth and good quality. So where to from here? What I will look next is the opportunity to manage our emergent native woodlands and mixed broadleaf plantation alike through continuous cover forestry. Continuous cover forestry is a management approach which includes many different silvicultural systems and allows for the production of timber and of other goods and services without the loss of forest cover at any stage. In particular, I will look at the Copies with Standards system, the Shelterwood system, and the selection system, also known as cluster nature management. Copies with Standards, it's a very ancient management system and dates back, in fact, to the prehistory, and it consists of an understory managed for short rotation for small diameter rods, for small diameter timber, and an overstory of around 25 to 50 trees per hectare managed for larger dimension timber. In the picture, a Copies with Standards forest site I was involved with myself. In fact, it was one of the first projects I was involved with as a forester back in the years, where we aimed to produce small dimension timber craft material from the understory hazel and acorns for seed production from the overstory pedunculate oak trees. And the seeds were then supplied at the time to the National Tree Nursery for the production of oak trees to supply to the emergent Native Woodland Scheme. The advantages of the system is a traditional, offer a wide range of products, and is simple to execute, is a simple prescriptive management. It has an associated rich spring ground flora diversity and offer good soil protection. In terms of these advantages, there's a lower percentage of the higher value, larger dimension timber, and for the smaller timber, it needs local niche markets for it to be effectively marketed, markets which are not always available. In terms of deer browsing, as we might know, we have seen in the last few years an explosion of deer population in Ireland. Deer is attracted to areas with the young broadleaf trees and the resprouts from the cut stumps and copy stumps is very attractive to deer. So managing the regrowth from the stumps in deer areas can be challenging. Also in terms of structural diversity, especially following the coppicing intervention, can present quite a uniform structure. Moving to the Shelterwood system, it's been for centuries across Europe really the main silvicultural system for the production of hardwood sawlog. The management approach is represented in the diagram here, and following decades of progressive respacing and thinning, the trees in the stand are brought to a uniform target size, uniform dimension, dictated by the local market. Could be anything between 50 to 70 centimeter diameter of breast height or higher, depending on local requirements. And at which point, when a suitable size is reached, the forest canopy is felled over phases over a period typically within 15 years. And during this process, a new cohort of trees is then regenerated in the partial shade of the remaining trees, hence the name Shelterwood. The new trees in the resulting new forest can then range in age between 10 up to 15 years of age difference, but eventually will merge in a uniform structure and the cycle continues. In terms of its advantages, it's relatively easy to execute. It offers the production of large volumes of high quality sawlog at the end of a rotation and offer good soil protection. In terms of disadvantages, compared to a natural forest, say, as a lower structural diversity, the regeneration, respacing, tending of the young trees can be quite expensive to manage. And again, as for the coppice with standards, susceptible to deer browsing. In terms of biodiversity features, it offers reduced opportunity for old growth in terms of trees maturing and over maturing, as all trees are removed within a given period. And also in terms of production and productivity, this is concentrated at the end of a rotation. Some of these rotations can be very long, some up to 250 years, 120 years in better cases. Moving from the Shelterwood systems to the selection system, also known as close to nature management, really in recent years we have seen a growing interest in more integrated approach to forest management across Europe. And this concept has also been supported by recent advancements in our understanding of forest ecosystem functioning, and it aims to integrate production, conservation, and social values at the stand level, all of which is ultimately underpinned by our current European Sustainable Forest Management Policy. One of the main advocates of close to nature management, Pro-Silva Europe, a European umbrella organization present in many European countries, including Ireland, made up by forestry practitioners, ecologists, forest owners. It's a very diverse organization. There are probably four main key principles in support of close to nature management, which close to nature management is based. The first one is that it is modeled on natural forest succession phases, and we'll look at those in detail in the next slide. The second, it focuses on individual quality trees through a selective harvesting approach, hence the name selection. The third, harvesting patterns tend to mimic natural disturbance. For Ireland would be primarily wind, small, medium-scale wind disturbance for native woodlands. Fourth and last, it encourages and aims for multiple species and irregular structure as a way to provide and improve resilience. Now, resilience is an important quality of all systems, including forest systems, and it describes the ability of a system to continue in its performance, to perform its key functions in terms of forest products and services in the face of disruption. And this is a very important quality to have within a forest system going forward in a quite uncertain future in terms of climatic changes ahead. In fact, the strength and resilience of the close to nature management approach has been cited by some as the main advantage of this management system. In terms of advantages, as mentioned, offer a high level of structural diversity, which translates into a high level of species diversities, increased ecosystem resilience, also a potential to grow very high quality timber and to integrate the same within a range of other services, ecosystem services, also recreation, ecotourism, etc. In terms of disadvantages, it requires overall a level of skill, a higher level of skill perhaps than with other systems. In terms of monitoring requirements, it is an adaptive system, so it requires regular monitoring, maybe more so than with other systems, and overall requires skilled and trained practitioners and a long-term vision planning. In the picture is a forest site, a native woodland I visited a few years ago as part of a Pro Silva Ireland tour in Belgium. The forest is managed for the production of high quality hardwoods, also including a very interesting community firewood scheme, very profitable to the owner, and as well hunting and mushroom foraging. So a very diverse, very multi-purpose forest. So as we mentioned, cluster nature management is based on the understanding that forest develops through well-defined stages, as presented in the diagram here, from an initial regeneration establishment stage to a young stem exclusion pole stage when trees are young. As trees mature and start setting seeds, the forest moves into an understory reinitiation stage with seedlings appearing. And as all the social classes then are expressed, as they're called, so we have large, very large trees down to seedlings present in the forest. At this point, natural disturbance keep the system in a dynamic equilibrium by ensuring renewal, but also productivity. And we'll see how management can assist the development of a forest through those stages. So looking at the pole stage first, at this stage, the focus is to select and promote vigorous quality stems, individual quality trees through crown thinning. Crown thinning is the process of favoring the crown of a tree that shows desirable timber qualities by removing competitors to his crown to allow vigorous growth of this tree. Obviously, the best way to promote the growth of a tree is to give his crown space where the leaves are functioning as solar panels, capturing the sunlight from the sun, combined with carbon dioxide into timber biomass and soil organic matter. Now, classic crown thinning approach, say under the Shelterwood system, would partially remove competitors to a selected tree in the aim of trying to elongate, to promote an elongation of the stem, but partially suppressing the growth of the tree, the free growth of the tree. Now, a novel approach to crown thinning, named halo thinning, would do the opposite in a way, would, if sufficient quality timber can be maintained through, for example, the system of high pruning, then all the competitors would be removed around a selected tree, hence the name halo thinning, creating a halo space around it. And this approach has been shown to dramatically increase the growth rate of a selected tree. In fact, the research around Europe, 2 research sites in particular here presented to the left, the Fernlamont 30-year oak free growth trial. Free growth is the management approach where halo thinning is applied. And a site I visited in Belgium in 2016 as part again of a Pro Silva study tour, where researchers found that oak could be grown to 20 centimeter diameter a year, in 20 years, with 1 centimeter sustained annual growth thereafter, which is ahead of expectation. To the right, closer to home in Wales, a site I visited in 2018, where researchers found over an 80-year, probably impressive 80-year trial, the researchers found that by applying halo thinning, oak could be grown to 60 centimeter diameter at breast height in approximately 80 years, which is well ahead of expectations. And also being grade oak might be reached at 40 years. So all of which puts a different complexion on the profitability of growing hardwoods in native woodlands in Ireland. Moving to the understory reinitiation stage, trees come into maturity, they start to produce seeds, and from here seedlings. So at this point, and given a sufficient a suitable irregular structure is in place through the crown thinning process, which is an important factor to consider irregularity development in the forest. If irregularity is present at this point, what we see is the emergence of scattered patches of regeneration throughout the forest, sometimes named as the waiting room. The reason for this name is that observations show that trees in this cohorts of seedlings and saplings can remain stored for quite a number of years, up to 10 years, and still maintain plasticity and enough vitality to respond to when overhead light might become available, for example, from the removal of a canopy tree, be it from harvesting or from natural disturbance. So the size of the gap in this process becomes important. A too small of a gap would suppress the cohort growth potential, and too large of a gap will give competitive advantage to ground vegetation, which could smother the regeneration or lead to costly management operation. The aim ultimately is to release from this cohort, so this waiting room, one vigorous pole, sometimes called a sprinter, as in the picture, in the drawing up here, in the slide. A vigorous pole would go for the light, capture the light, and develop really very rapidly into a pole and then a young tree. So we mentioned irregularity, and achievement of a suitable irregular structure is key in close to nature management as a way to obtain ecosystem stability, but also importantly as a way to provide sustained yield through a conveyor belt effect. As trees are matured at different stages in different times and reach maturity at different times, it provides a continuous supply, sustained yield, but also ensure renewal of the forest throughout. Observations of close to nature management in Atlantic Europe, which are those countries in Europe they share similar climatic condition to Ireland, such as Belgium, Northern France, and Wales, and others. What we see is an open forest structure with diffuse light and well-developed, vigorous, large, dominant trees, as in the drawing in the slide, making up the majority of the forest. Interestingly, recent research has revealed that vigorous, large, dominant trees in the forest, known as hub trees sometimes, control through large root exudates the secretion of carbohydrates from trees' roots into the soil, control the development and maintenance of the fungal ectomycorrhizal symbiotic network. This is a very important network for proper function of the forest. It functions as an interface between soil biota, soil biodiversity, and trees through a mutually beneficial relationship between fungi and trees, and is responsible for a large amount of the nutrient circulation within the forest system, the water regulation, and also pathogen control, pathogen and pest control within the forest soil. So it's a very important foundation to forest growth and resilience. So in other words, by keeping the large, vigorous trees in a vigorous growth state through harvesting disturbance, for example, would seem important not only from a timber production perspective, also to maximize biodiversity and stability within the forest. A few trees, a few large hub trees are and could be retained into old growth, mature, over-mature, and eventually decay in the interest of habitat diversification, providing deadwood for invertebrates and nesting habitats. Moving to the final dynamic equilibrium stage, when all the social classes are achieved, where a full structure is achieved from very large trees to seedlings. At this point, the removal of occasional large, high-quality sawlog tree, like in the picture, would allow us to maintain the forest stand into a dynamic state by allowing light to reach the forest floor, therefore enabling seedlings to mature into saplings, saplings into sprinters, sprinters into poles, small trees, medium trees, and eventually large and very large trees, both underpinning ecosystem renewal, ecosystem stability, but also providing a continuous supply of quality hardwoods. As mentioned, close to nature management is an adaptive system and therefore requires regular monitoring. This has been considered up to recent weakness of close to nature management system and management of irregular multi-species forests, in the assumption that complex forests would require complicated and costly monitoring protocols. However, recent investigations reveal that using modern technology and innovative design, it is in fact possible to design and execute cost-effective monitoring protocol in irregular and multi-species forests. In terms of our current hardwood production in Ireland, what we see primarily is a healthy volume of firewood production, which is predominantly the consequence of the age class of our forest. Most of our forest plantation and native woodlands are still very young and going through a crown thinning, a pole stage crown thinning process. So what we have is volumes of firewood. As we said, we also have markets for craft materials, primarily ash for Hurley productions. But we already see the beginning of experimentation with some of our maturing hardwoods. In the pictures in the bottom illustrate a trial which I was involved with myself with Forestry College in Letterfrack for the production of narrow boards from firewood logs, really, from better quality firewood logs, which were arising from the woodlot in that picture. And the results were very encouraging. The boards that were produced, narrow boards, they were quite stable, and they were shown to be suitable for the production of craft material by the students. More importantly, we have in Teagasc a collaboration with JMIT Letterfrack, a 3-year research project to investigate the exploitation and working properties of small diameter Irish grown alder, and we await results on that. Another initiative, another project of relevance to hardwood utilization, to adding value to small diameter hardwoods, is the Hardwood-Focus project. Is a project that I'm facilitating in County Limerick. It's a discussion group of forest owners really looking at opportunities and ways to add value to their maturing young broadleaf trees. The group is now supported by a promotional fund by the Department of Agriculture for a number of actions, number of initiatives, one of which being the study tour to Wales, which we undertook last year in the autumn, to go to visit organizations and businesses involved in hardwood products from small diameter logs, say 20 to 40 centimeters. And what we found been quite encouraging. We've seen the commercial production of hardwood tiles, end grain tiles, in the picture here, birch flooring in an alder tile. Also, we've seen the possibility of using narrow board into larger composite boards for the production of hardwood products. Very simple concept, but very effective. Heat treatment and new heat treatment for ash, for external use as weather cladding. And also another example is the utilization of small diameter logs, oak logs, for the production of profitable production of beams for the oak beam construction market. So all these initiatives are very important and very welcome. However, it will take time before the full value of hardwood production from native woodlands will be realized, and management will hopefully speed up that process and make sure that we will achieve the best quality from a hardwood resource, from a native woodland resource. But we see some initial signs of things to come. Is the refurbishment here in Limerick of a castle using local oak by one of the members of the Hardwood-Focus. The castle is now let for weddings and functions. Letterfrack Forestry College recently installed state-of-the-art facility for milling, kiln drying for the production of hardwoods. Teagasc organising Talking Hardwoods a promotional event recently in Mitchelstown, and also quality production, quality oak harvesting in County Wicklow by Paddy Purses specialists consulting in continuous cover forestry there. So to the initial question, can we grow quality hardwoods in native woodlands? From what we have discussed, the initial answer would seem to be positive, as latest research and practice would seem to indicate that using active and adaptive management in native woodlands can lead to an increased ecosystem services delivery, also increased resilience, very important, facing into climate change scenarios, and the incorporation of quality production of hardwoods, all of which ultimately will contribute to sustainable rural development for Ireland. I want to thank you for your attention. I hope you found the presentation of interest. If you have any more questions in relation to forest management, you might check our website, teagasc.ie/forestry, or feel free to contact me directly. My email address, jonathan.spazzi@teagasc.ie.